Nowadays, we can see technology everywhere through smartphones, new computers, or big search tools like Google. In the companies, we can easily find high-tech machines that make the tasks faster and more efficient. All these technologies have the goal to make our lives easier, and this makes us really connect to technology. When we analyze all these aspects, we can conclude that it's hard to live without technology. Consequently, we have created a lot of tools to help us learn and transmit knowledge.
Although this new tool also creates a new paradigm about how we do our daily activities. Because of that, we have to analyze how it will work and regulate it to use that powerful tool in the right way without putting at risk the future of our society.
Education is not just for learning information. If that were true, then you could just have students read, or you could just tell them things. But in fact, education is about information, but also about socialization, learning to live together as human beings.
Prioritizing what's important and what's not important, and learning how to filter out the social noise. And that's part of real life, and that's a vital skill for kids.
To analyze how technology could be useful to education, we have to consider some important or relevant points. First of all, we have to consider how technology could interfere in the human interactions. These interactions that start at school when a little child met other people and realized that he can create ties with people who don't pertain to his family. If during this basic education, medium or high school, this process were broken through the adoption of distance learning, this could be really damage to the child's life.
So distance learning is learning outside of the classroom, usually at home or in an isolated place.
So I think it's possible, but I don't think within my personal experience it hasn't worked so well yet. Yeah.
For middle school and high school, the education system, especially in the U.S., you do a lot of group work, and learning how to interact with people in person and socially, I think, is very important. Especially if you take those skills when you become an adult in a work environment.
So if we only use technology, then we'll lose that important piece.
Second of all, the fact that computer is a multi-optional platform can also be a problem. When we are in front of the computer, we have a very complete universe, and that provokes distractions, which lead to worse work and less absorbed knowledge. How many of us have been in important work and begun to access Facebook or other social media?
Yeah, I think cell phones are a big distraction. If their brain isn't fully present in the classroom, all that sacrifice is not bearing the fruit it should bear.
Also, to be possible to a student learn with questions and tasks disponible in the internet, these students have to be very responsible and dedicated, which in the main case is not the case.
The problem is, if you Google it, for example, and you read everything on Wikipedia or something like that, then you have only an article that has a short amount of information.
So I moved the activities online onto the computer, and they loved it. They were really engaged, they worked harder, and they were learning. But they weren't just being passive, they were doing something.
Other vital point is, if you apply these technological methods, would the student development be equal, better, or worse than the traditional methods of education?
Some experts affirm that humans have multiple kinds of intelligence, which are important to develop as many as possible. Technology facilitating our lives could diminish how many kinds of intelligence we use.
So there's auditory learners, there's visual learners, and there's kinesthetic learners. Those are people who learn by doing something.
But if a student is not that type of learner, technology can be a big stumbling block. You can't be controlled by the method. Whoever's using the technology has to know when to use it and when not to use it.
It doesn't have to be a bad thing if you learn how to use it correctly.
So technology can get in the way of people learning if technology is used in an unthinking way.
You guys are going to have to be careful about making sure that technology is used carefully in academic work.
It's clear that technology is one of the most important improvements in the human life, but as any other new paradigm which modifies drastically our lives, have to be analyzed and regulated.
Therefore, this powerful tool have to be administered properly, avoiding to become a risk for the future of the society.